So today we're going to talk about something that's quite important to me, and that is why I think we as a world, not just in New York City, but definitely in New York City, need to slow down. And I woke up this morning. I had an appointment at Stretch, New York. I took the train downtown. I went and got stretched, and it's a beautiful day outside. I came back home ready and raring to work. And I've got so much energy and excitement and motivation. But I've also got ADHD, so I've got a little bit too much of those things now. And I'm currently sitting here with something called decision paralysis. So, what that means is I have a whole bunch of things to do. I owe work to my team. I have things that I need to do in my apartment. I've got things I need to do just to take care of my own business. And instead of coming home with all this energy and excitement and motivation and being able to sit down and figure out, hey, what should I tackle first? And how do I kind of like use this energy to get stuff done? Instead, it's like an overload of decisions because there's so many things I could do, and it's all really important. And the ADHD brain finds it very difficult in those situations to prioritize what's the most important. And because our brains are dopamine focused and we're intrinsically motivated, we're likely going to choose the thing that feels good rather than the thing that we probably should be doing. And not because we're particularly avoiding that. I mean, it is like a level of productive avoidance, but because you just cannot get this brain of yours that is going at like 5,000 miles an hour to slow down enough to actually start processing and saying what actually is the most important thing that I need to do. Who is the most important person that I need to get back to in this moment? And as I'm having this conversation, it's starting to become apparent to me as I'm processing verbally and out loud who that priority should be or what that priority should be. And I think this probably can give you a little bit of insight into the ADHD mind and body, especially when it comes to us being overstimulated. And there's so many different things that are happening in our day-to-day lives that can overstimulate us, right? For me, this morning, it was taking the train during rush hour. And personally, I like early appointments because if I have a late appointment, I'm stuck in waiting mode all day. And again, I'm in this paralysis where I can't get anything done because I'm so focused on this thing that's going to happen later and what time do I need and when do I need to start wrapping things up to get there. And it becomes this whole cycle then of anxious dread that I'm going to miss something. So I prefer to book things early, doctor's appointments, anything like start of the day, get it out of the way, and then I'm not in waiting mode. But the trains were really, really full this morning, and nothing happened, nothing crazy going on, just people going about their day, but there were so many people. So when I'm talking about we need to slow down and we need to kind of like understand, like if we take this concept of paralysis, decision paralysis, and think about how that impacts on somebody with ADHD versus maybe somebody that's neurotypical, right? So a neurotypical might have come back with all this energy and said, right, because I've got all this energy, I'm going to start by doing this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'll do this, this, and this, and then I'll be finished in time to do X, right? So for somebody with ADHD, or for myself at least, when there's so many things that you've got to choose from and so many different areas that you're expected to kind of have input in, or, and again, whether that's your family life, whether that's your work life, a community project you're involved in, whatever it is, right? And you've got all this energy, but then you've got all these decisions to make and you can't make them. And at the same time, your brain is like coming up with different ideas or having different thoughts in there that are very intrusive and not helpful in some of those moments, right? And it becomes so overwhelming that physically and emotionally and mentally you've just outright exhausted yourself, and then you can't do anything. So when people see this decision paralysis from the outside, or they see this like overwhelm finally just kind of like break, what they look at is somebody that is lazy. Maybe they're scrolling their phone mindlessly, right? Or maybe they're just sitting watching reruns of their favorite TV show, or whatever it is that they're doing, right? You're kind of looking, going, oh, they're being really lazy right now. That employee is on their phone and they're just being really disrespectful, right? Some are. But some are trying to jumpstart their brain and feed it with dopamine. And it's not always easy to do that in a work environment. And one of the quickest, most surefire ways to give you dopamine, give your brain a little dose of dopamine, is scrolling for cat videos on Insta. People also think we're disinterested or that we're distracted and unable to focus. And in some respects, that's kind of true, but also the opposite is true. What's actually going on is we have so much focus and we're processing so much stimuli because we take in more stimuli than the average person, and we process more information from our environment than the average person might. And in doing this, and then we're sitting and we're trying to have a conversation, or somebody's like, what's on your list to do right now? Or, hey, you've got these 30 things to do. When are you going to get to them? Our brain just kind of collapses in on itself. Our body collapses in on itself, and our entire nervous system just says, not right now, not today, not in this moment, maybe not this week, because there's just too much, right? So that energy and that stimulation and that stimulus doesn't have to be like a negative thing either. And I know that happens a lot when we get into depressive states and we're kind of feeling high anxiety, or those kind of like real negative effects of mental illness and mental unwellness. It can also be for the positive, right? And it can be that like there's so much excitement and so much energy and so much fun that it just absolutely drains you, and you're no longer able to kind of connect dots in your brain. You're not able to actually make decisions in those moments. I can't tell you, sometimes I don't even know my own name. And so we have all this focus, we have all this energy, we have all this motivation. And then you ask yourself, well, in this fast paced world, why aren't people with ADHD, which is this kind of like fast paced difference, thriving? And my theory on it is that everything is moving too fast. So we were already moving too quickly. Our brains and our bodies and our kind of way of being is very immersive. And now we live in a fully immersive world. So it's like an additional layer of stimulus on top of that. And we live in a world where we've created, both in the workplace, in our education systems, in our kind of like various states and countries and counties and tribes and cultures and different things, this kind of like expectation of immediacy, expectation of being turned on 24/7, expectation of like getting a response from people within a couple of hours. And I find it really, really interesting that like that's the world that people have created, and we're all rushing around and working additional hours and saying things like, hey, there aren't enough hours in the day, or oh, I'd love to have gone to see this thing, but I just don't have time. I don't get home from work until 8, and then I've got the kids, and then, right? And I'm listening to these stories of parents and friendships and families and all sorts of things where what I'm hearing all the time is, I just don't have enough time to do this, and I don't have enough time to do that, and I don't get enough sleep, and I don't get enough of anything. And I really do think that the best medicine for that is all of us slowing down. It would help me and my fast brain no end, because it's kind of like amplified whatever you think you're experiencing. Somebody with ADHD or other differences even. I'm just speaking obviously from my own perspective of being diagnosed with ADHD. We measure people's worth in speed and rather than wisdom. And wisdom says that when your body tells you so, you should take a rest. Wisdom and science tells us that sleep is really, really important for the human body. And if we don't get enough sleep, it impacts not just on our brains, but our entire system. It also impacts on our behavior as well, and how we interact with people, our tolerance levels, stress levels, ability to maintain, lose weight, etc., ability to put weight on. All of these things have a huge impact. And then if you start losing sleep, that can then start to trigger depressive episodes. It can, like, there's just so many things that rushing around does. Like, people aren't eating real meals anymore. People are just kind of like grab and go and hoping for the best, right? And then we wonder why there's such an increase in diabetes, or again, people not getting a good night's sleep or not being able to function and do these things. So yeah, I think we need to start being a little bit less speedy and start tapping into some of that wisdom that we have at our fingertips, and rethink how we create deadlines, how we create situations, how we help people achieve their potential without destroying them in this bizarre creation that we've made, where, like, unless you're going to throw yourself onto the bonfire of corporate sacrifices, like, you're not going to get anywhere in the world, right? A card and you'll get somewhere used to mean something, and it doesn't these days, because hey, look how many companies have just sliced out their entire middle management and kind of moved people into different positions because there's too many managers out there. Or how many companies have taken those individual contributors that have been working for 10, 15 years and kind of thrown them outside onto the heap now, right? And those people have worked hard and they've been faithful to those companies and they've done all these things. But as soon as they're no longer, I'm not going to say relevant, because it's incumbent upon a company to see those changes happening and make sure the workforce is tooled to be able to adapt to those changes. And yeah, maybe sometimes you need to hire outside or have an honest conversation with somebody, but it doesn't need to be what we're experiencing now, right? So you see all these people who have been told to kind of give themselves to companies, and they've made that their identity, and they've made that who they are, and they've been proud for years to work for these organizations that were doing it differently. And now they've all lost their jobs and things, right? And I'm pretty sure many of them lost relationships along the way working for some of those corporations because they became unavailable, because they lost touch, because they weren't filling their own cup. So I've been there. I've been in that burnout. I've been in a crazy town where it's just go, 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 and you don't know how to stop yourself. And I thought that if I just keep producing more and more and more, that's going to get me that next promotion. That's going to make people realize how indispensable I am. That's going to make people realize like what I'm really capable of. And it absolutely didn't. It did the complete opposite, because I turned into this recluse who couldn't put a thought together, couldn't figure out how to help myself, couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting to where I thought I should be going. And it wasn't until I stopped that I realized I didn't lose momentum. And what I mean by that is, in stopping, I found clarity. In stopping, and I talk about this to everyone and anyone, I had an amazing burnout career coach, and she helped me no end with all of these things. And that was just, if anybody is interested, that was through Work Bigger. And the CEO of the company is Belma McCaffrey, and she has put together an amazing coaching program where they do coaching, individual coaching or group coaching, and it really helps you to kind of come back to yourself as a human being and think about why you are here in the world. Why do you wake up every day? What is it that drives you and makes you passionate and lights you up, and why can't you be doing those things, right? So when I say I didn't lose momentum actually picked up. I'd been losing momentum to the point where I had stopped, right? And as soon as I stopped and I slowed my own world down and stopped trying to do all the things and thinking that I needed to be everyone's everything and had to know everything and be the go-to. Once I stopped doing that and I really, really took it back and started thinking about, well, what is it that I should be doing? What is it that I've actually been missing by doing all of these things? And the clarity that I gained from those exercises is just absolutely invaluable. It helped to restore my executive function. I started to be able, even little things, right? At that time, I couldn't even remember a 6-digit code that would have been sent to my phone. And I remember the feeling the first time I actually remembered the whole number without having to look at it again and go and punch it into something. I was like, oh my God, I just remembered 6 numbers and I didn't have to like keep going back because I couldn't remember like past 2. And I started to notice that, yeah, I have all these intrusive thoughts, but they're not all bad. And there's some really good ideas in there. And I've actually got a lot of skills and strengths and different things that I could do. And I started writing post-it notes and putting them on my wall so I wouldn't lose the momentum and the ideas, right? And I started taking care of myself. I still haven't got to working out properly, but I do make sure I get my 10,000 steps every day because I understand how time works for me now. I understand that I have very severe time blindness and I have even more time optimism. I think everything can be done in a much shorter time than it can, because I don't have a sense of time passing me. And because I know that, I know now, if you've got meetings, if there are important things to do it first thing in the morning. So get up, get it done, get it out of the way. And I know, like, oh, if I'm going to meet with my team, meet with them at these times and on these days, because that's what works, right? And I have intentionally tried to avoid having too many meetings so far, but the work doesn't happen in the meetings, and meetings shouldn't be about doing the work. It should be about what needs to be done and what has been done, and a conversation if something needs to change, right? Those conversations about actually getting it done should be happening as people are doing it, as they're getting it done, as they're kind of moving through, right? Because a working meeting with somebody that has a project that you're involved in, where you're working on the same thing at the same time in the same space, whether it's virtual or not, means you can have those little conversations where you say, okay, I just did this. Can you just click on this link now and approve this? Okay, you did that right. And that is, for me, getting things done. And that's a productive way for us to use our time, especially as we're all remote as well. And not having tons of meeting all week doesn't impact on our momentum. In fact, it's improved it, and we have more clarity because we meet with who we need to meet with, and then we bring it back to the wider team instead of making everybody whose time is limited anyway just go through all this bullshit that doesn't really matter, right? Like, most people don't operate in the weeds, and you don't need to make them operate in the weeds. What slowing down also does, as well as helping with empathy, it also gives you time to really percolate on ideas. It gives you time to smell the roses. It gives you time to feel good about your life, about family, about all those types of things, right? In most cases, and again, speaking from my personal experience, unless it's payroll or taxes or bill pay, very few things in a company should have a hard deadline. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't have deadlines, because obviously, again, things need to get done and people need to work towards things. But most deadlines are artificial. They're made by somebody because, hey, we just want to do this thing by this date, right? And we can slow those deadlines down in our companies. We can slow those deadlines down to our customers. And if they're good customers, they'll understand. They're being mindful and really, really thoughtful and things, and they've slowed down. And as they slowed down, they gained momentum because the improvements that they've made have been great. The communications that they're sending have improved. The interaction in the community is great, right? Because everybody's in that together now. And I think companies could learn a lot from that. And it seems antithetical to productivity and to kind of crunching those numbers and meeting those targets and whatever. But I really do believe that sometimes you just have to stop or slow down or even take 5 steps backwards so that you can regain momentum and then really drive those numbers or really hit those targets or really get those goals. And you can't do it while everybody is rushing around everywhere in life, trying to get home for their kids' parents' evening, trying to get to work in rush hour, trying to take family members to events or to after school programs, trying to care for loved ones at home, trying to take care of themselves, trying to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, right? So we're all rushing, rushing, rushing. And then our companies are all rushing because I want to be first to market, or we're chasing our competitor and we want to beat them in these things, or we want to capture this market now. And everybody's rushing, rushing, rushing to do it. But like, what's the impact of that? And where's the sustainability in it? So I'd like to ask you a question, which is, if the most productive thing we can do is pause, pause to look at the tools and software that we've got. I mean, we've got, and don't get me wrong, I use AI and I probably use it on a daily basis, absolutely, to help with various things. But what we're seeing now is that people are trying to use AI to speed things up even more, right? And companies are hiring these bigger and better and more expensive teams because it's all about this one thing right now, right? And it's like, well, what if we just chilled for a minute and iterated on what we've got and really then took a moment to say, right, we've come along leaps and bounds. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. We can integrate it in these ways to help alleviate everybody rushing around, to help alleviate some of the minutiae that kind of really gives people that decision paralysis, or gives people that overstimulation where they just crash and burn, or they get home and yell at their kids because they've had a hard day at the office because they were stuck in traffic for 4 hours and then everything went wrong and they had 10 meetings and no time to do their actual work, which has got a deadline because you're in a sprint and all this other stuff, right? What if stopping, what if just taking a moment and listening and hearing the people around us and what they're actually saying to us, like our family and our friends and people like that? What if we, instead of staying late at the office all day because you have to sacrifice yourself to the lot of the corporation, what about spending time sacrificing yourself to the lot of your personal corporation at home, whether that's your significant other, your kids, your parents, whoever it is, right? Because that's what matters at the end of the day. Like saying hi to your neighbors, feeling like you belong in your own life outside of work, feeling that you're rested, feeling like you've got time to take care of your own interests, to follow your own pursuits, to do the things that light you up, because most people's jobs don't light them up, even if it's what they want to be doing. It's a grind, right? So why don't we try resting without guilt? Why don't we try communicating and being kinder in our communications so we can harness the power of what is already here and understand how we can really use it to make life more human without putting so much pressure on people and making it their personal problem and their problem to solve. And if we do that for ourselves and we start kind of creating those boundaries where we say to people, you know what, I've given you this much time today, but I'm going home for my kids right now, or I'm going home for my husband, wife, partner, whoever, dog, because the world's not going to end, right? It's only going to speed up if more of us submit to that feeling and theory that everything needs to be done instantly or we're going to miss out. Like, it's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Fear of missing out on the next AI thing, fear of missing out on the next VR, fear of missing out. But what is it doing for us humanly and for humanity, right? Other than creating pollution and even more overstimulation and more feelings of inadequacy and whatever else it is. So here's my challenge to you. I would like you to try this weekend or whenever you've got a moment to rest without guilt. And remember, if I do that, the world is not going to end. Somebody's internal world might end because of it, but the world isn't going to end. And exhale, take a load off, go get stretched, go take a walk, do something that is helpful to you, but just slow down. And companies, stop creating artificial deadlines and non existent emergencies. A very wise keynote speaker, whose name I cannot remember, once said many years ago, if it's not life or death, it's not a big deal. And at Unlabelled and Limitless, we completely ride with that motto. If it's not life or death, it's not a big deal. So if something comes up on a Friday, the first thing I ask is that a today problem or is it a Monday problem? Because if it's a Monday problem, let's leave it till Monday, right? The banks close in the afternoon, so they're not going to process anything till Monday. The most things that can be done online, hey, if we've got an extra few days, it can be done on Monday. If it's a family crisis, absolutely go deal with it. But yeah, if it's not life or death, it's not a big deal. So take a nap, take a long sleep, go out and do something fun, but just slow down. Slow down. We don't always need to be rushing around, creating these false deadlines of places we have to get to at whatever time.